The agenda of today's session is to understand 80386 general purpose registers and control registers. We'll also be discussing what is meant by real mode, protected mode, and virtual mode in 80386. Okay, so we are going to learn these two things in today's session. Now, what were we discussing in the last session? Somebody tell me what were we discussing in the last session?
Flag
Flag
register.
register and architecture.
Flag register and architecture.
Yes,
Right? We discussed the architecture of 80386 and also its flag register. So you all know that the architecture has 5 important components. Bus interface unit. Somebody tell me what is the purpose of bus interface unit?
To transfer data.
To transfer data in and out of the nuclei. What is the purpose of code or prefetch unit? Somebody else? Somebody else apart from Riddhi? Should I
Fetch
call
next 16 bytes of program.
fetching the next 16 bytes? Okay. Who will tell me when is the prefetch queue refilled? Okay. We take the next 16 bytes of the program. But tell me when is the queue refilled?
When 4 bytes are empty.
When 4 bytes are empty. Okay. What is the purpose of decoder unit? Anybody else? Moksha, Shubham, Nandu, Amish. There's so many people who have not spoken even
Can you
once.
please repeat the question?
What is the purpose of the next unit, decoder unit?
To separate the decoding instructions. Decode unit.
To decode the instructions. How many instructions?
3 instruction, ma'am.
3 instructions are decoded. Now, who will tell me what will happen if there is a branch instruction? Zenil, can you tell me what happens when there is a branch instruction? Zenil is not there. Right now, who answered? Karan answered.
Abhishek.
Who answered just now?
Yeah, ma'am. Abhishek.
Karan. Okay. Somebody else. Meet. So many people who never.
Ma'am, discarded, invalid.
Where all they are discarded? When there is a branch instruction, from where all they are discarded?
Q are invalid, ma'am. Q.
Which all queues?
Instructions in the queues are discarded, ma'am.
Both the instruction queue as well as the prefetch queue. Whenever there is a branch instruction, whatever contents we have prefetched, which will be there in the prefetch queue, as well as whatever we have decoded and kept, that will be there in the instruction queue. Both are discarded. What is the purpose of execution unit? To perform all your arithmetic and logical operations, for which you have several registers, shifters, dedicated multiplication and division units, ALU, etc. in the execution unit. Now, segment and paging unit are together referred to as the memory unit. What are they used for? They are used for translating virtual address to physical address. Right? Now, we also discussed the flag register of 80386. So, apart from whatever flags are there in 8086, there are 4 new flags. We discussed the 4 new flags, right? Now, who will tell me what is the purpose of IOPL? Somebody tell me what is IOPL and what is its purpose? Anyone, apart from whoever spoke till now? Zeel, Rahil, I've never heard your voice, Rahil. Chirag, Somesh, somebody speak up. Vikas. Anyone? Doesn't matter if you go wrong. I'm just your teacher, right? This It's not a viva that's going on. You're not going to be graded. Toshna, Radha. Somebody tell me what is IOPL and what is its purpose? Patel, hey, Mani, Rahul. You people exist or don't exist, huh? Ritika was so vocal in the last semester. This time you're feel like you're not there.
Ma'am, I just joined.
Ma'am,
That's okay, but I asked a question about the last session only. What is meant by IOPL? Can somebody tell me? Yes, who is going to speak?
input output privilege level.
Input output privilege level. That means what? There are 4 privilege levels, and based on that privilege level only, input output devices can be accessed. So the highest privilege is IOPL 3. So at IOPL 3, the files which have privilege to access IO devices, basically they are your OS kernel files. Only they can access the IO devices. Same way, there are 3 other privilege levels. So IOPL means it just defines the privilege level of who can access IO devices. Now, who will tell me, good Shreya, who will tell me what is NT?
Nested task.
Who gave the answer? NT?
Yeah, ma'am. Nested task. It is used to
Nested
evoke the another task.
It is not used to evoke another task. It shows that a particular task is evoked from
Yeah, ma'am.
another task. Okay.
Child class is evoked from parent class.
If NT is equal to 1, it means the current task has been invoked from a previous or a parent task. So this is your, kind of your child task. If NT is equal to 1, it means there is some, I told you, there's something called as a table, small table called as task segment descriptor, task state segment. So the TSS will have a backlink to your parent task in case NT equal to 1. So in case NT equal to 1, for your current task, the TSS will definitely have a back pointer. That means it will point to who the parent task is. Who will tell me what is RF? Somebody else? What is RF? Prince, Jayesh, Rutuja,
Resume flag.
resume flag. What is its purpose? What is its purpose? Speak up, speak up.
Debugging.
It is used in the context of debugging, but what exactly? How exactly?
If RF is equal to 1, then next instruction will be ignored. Means that.
Next instruction will be ignored. Why? Because whatever problem was there with that instruction that we have resolved previously. In 80386, sometimes what happens is when there is a problem with some instruction, when there's some logical error in that instruction, what will happen? You insert breakpoints to find out where the logical error is. When you insert breakpoints, what happens is the program keeps stopping at the same breakpoint again and again, even if you have resolved that error. So to avoid that, what we'll do, whenever you find RF equal to 1, it means that that logical error which was there previously, that has been resolved. Now that breakpoint has to be ignored. So if there is any other, if still your logic is going wrong, that means the error is there forward in your program, not at that breakpoint. That logical error has been resolved. So you have to resume with the execution of the rest of the program and then find out the errors using the other breakpoints. That's what RF flag is about. It just tells you, tells 8036 that you have to resume. You don't have to resolve any errors here. Just resume with the rest of the execution. Don't just ignore this breakpoint. Now, will tell me what is VM? VM, Poojan, Amit, Nilesh. Somebody speak up. Prathamesh,
Virtual mode.
virtual mode. What is virtual mode?
It creates 8086 environment in 80836.
Even though your processor is 80386, in virtual mode, you can it will act or it will emulate the behavior of 8086. It will act as an 8086 processor in virtual mode, right? So you have a 32-bit flag register where only 0 to 18 are actually utilized. Rest of the bits are reserved by Intel. Where reserved by Intel but for future use. They might have been used by now. They might have been used when they came up with all the other processors, right? After 386 came 486, 586, Pentium 1, 2, 3, 4, everything, right? So by now these all reserve bits might have been used. At least few of them might have been used. Now let's come to today's agenda, which is to discuss the general purpose registers and control register, and we'll also be discussing real mode, protected mode, and virtual mode in a little more detail. Now, what you can see in front of you, somebody is connecting to audio from the very beginning. Amit, bad connectivity. Let me just a minute. Okay. Now, what you see in front of you is the register, general purpose registers, all registers, okay? Segment registers, offset registers, flag register, everything. The whole register model of 386. Okay. Now, you're all familiar with all these people, okay? See, in 80386, you have 32-bit general purpose registers, okay? You know what are general purpose registers. AX, BX, CX, DX are your general purpose registers. You know what are your segment registers, right? What are your segment registers? CS is there, SS is there, DS is there, ES is there, right? 4 segments, rack segment, data segment, extra segment. These are your segment registers. Then you know what are the offset registers. Who are our offset registers? SI is there, DI is there, BP is there, and SP is there. And then you have your flag registers also. These were the registers which were there in 8086. Same registers are there in 80386 also, but the only difference is that they are extended. That means in 8086, their size was 16-bit. All these registers were 16-bit, right? AX was made up of AL and AH, which can be individually used as 8-bit registers, or together they can be used as 16-bit register AX, BX, CX, all are 16-bit registers. Even your segment registers and offset registers are also 16-bit registers in 8086. Now, in the case of 80386, these are not 16-bit, but they are 32-bit. So you can see here an E. It's not simply AX, it is EAX. EAX means extended AX, okay? Extended means it's extended from 16 to 32 bits. So now the size of your general purpose registers. What are your general purpose registers now? They are now EAX, EBX, ECX, and EDX. What are they? They are all 32-bit registers, okay? Now they are no longer 16-bit registers. They are 32-bit registers, but you can also use AX alone, AX individually, or AH and AL individually, where they act as 16 or 8-bit registers. I'll tell you where the difference comes. The difference comes in real mode and protected mode, okay? In real mode, I have already told you. In real mode, 80386 acts as 8086. That means 8086 means 16-bit registers only. So in real mode, only this light orange color part, only that will be made use of. That means only AX, BX, you will have only AX, BX, CX, DX available in real mode. But if you are in protected mode is the mode where your 80386 behaves like an 80386. Okay, so there it will use EAX. That means you will have 32-bit registers available. So in protected mode, you have all these 32-bit available. So you'll be using EAX, EBX, ECX, and EDX in protected mode. Whereas in real mode, you will be using only only the 16-bit, that is AX, BX, CX, DX will be available. Same thing applies for the segment and offset registers also. See, you had only 4 segment registers in 8086, right? CS, SS, TS, and ES. Here, you have 2 more segment registers, which is you can see here, FS, GS. So 2 more segment registers in 80386, FS and GS. See, all these, okay? DS, ES, FS, and GS all are data segment registers, are all segment registers which are used for storing data. Okay? CS is code segment, SS is data segment, SS is stack segment, DS, ES, FS, and GS, D, E, F, G, all that are used as data segments itself. Okay, that means you can store data over there. So EAX, EBX, ECX, EDX are your general purpose registers in 80386. CS, SS, DS, ES, FS, and GS are your segment registers, out of which CS is your code segment, SS is your stack segment, DS, ES, FS, and GS are used as data segment registers. That means you have 4 segments for storing data itself. Then instead of EI, DI, BP, and SP, again they are also extended. That means they are also how many bit? 32 bit. So you can see it's extended SI, ESI, EDI, EBP, and ESP. Extended SI, extended DI, extended BP, and extended SP. Again, in real mode, you will be using SI, DI, BP, and SP only. But in protected mode, you have all these 32 bits available. That means you will be using ESI, EDI, EBP, and ESP. Okay. And same way flags also. If you are in real mode, you will be using only the 16-bit flag register. If you are in protected mode, you will use the whole 32-bit flag register will be available. Okay, this is called as the register model of 80386. We'll be coming to this after a little while. But I hope you got some idea. What is the difference? Only difference is that all your registers are 32-bit. Okay. See, your segment registers are not extended. Okay, wherever you have a E written before, only those registers are extended. Okay, so except the segment registers, all other registers are extended. Okay, you have to keep that point in mind. Except segment registers, your GPRs, your index registers, your pointer registers, that is your offset registers, and your flag register, everything is extended. Okay, everything is extended. Why? Because 80386 is a 32-bit processor. So a lot of capacity is extended over here of all your registers. Understood? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's come to the modes. Okay. After discussing modes, we'll go to control registers. So in 80386, you have general purpose registers, you have segment registers, you have offset registers, you have flag register. Apart from that, there's one more, 3 more category actually, 3 more category of registers: control registers, debug registers, and test register. Okay, we'll come to that. Now, first let's discuss operating modes. So as I told you, 80386 can operate in 3 modes. Okay, real mode, protected mode. This is the mode in which it actually works. Okay, it actually works as a 386 processor. Real and virtual mode, it will be acting as 8086 only. Okay, it will be emulating the behavior of 8086. So there are 3 modes in which 80386 can work: real mode, protected mode, and virtual mode. Okay, now real mode, as I said, in real mode, 80386 does not behave like 80386. Okay, in real mode, your 80386 works like a fast 8086. I even told you what the reason why we say it's a fast 8086. Why do we say it as a fast 8086? Does somebody remember? I mean, does anybody remember?
Clock frequency
Clock frequency is high. Clock frequency is of 80386. Suppose it is a 33 megahertz 80386. Your clock frequency is high. but it is acting as an 8086. So if its clock frequency is high, obviously it's going to be fast. That's why we say in real mode, it's going to work as a fast 8086. So the moment you switch on a computer with 80386 processor, it will be in real mode. Okay. It will prepare the environment. It will prepare. It will do. See, whenever you switch on, that's when your BIOS works, right? What does BIOS do? All whatever chips you have in your system, whether it's 8255, whether it's 825957, whatever chips are there in your system, your processor, everything gets initialized when you switch on your computer. That's what basically your BIOS does. So here in real mode, what is happening? Whatever initialization is required, everything is done. There are so many tables and registers which have to be initialized. So basically, 80 your processor is in 8086 mode, and it is preparing the environment so that you can slowly switch to the protected mode. So from real mode, you can switch to protected mode. So in real mode, all the arrangements, all the preparation, all the setting up of the environment for your processor to work as a 386 processor happens in the real mode. Okay. So what is real mode? Real mode is the mode which is there when you initially switch on your computer with your 80386 processor. Okay. So here it behaves like a fast 8086. Why fast? Because the frequency is higher than 8086. So what it does in this real mode, the moment you start your processor in real mode, it creates the environment for the protected mode. Okay. So the purpose is to create an environment for your processor to go to protected mode. So basically, there are thousands of tables like GDT, LDT, TSS. We'll come to all that later on. Your RAM, all the initialization is done during this real mode, so that the protected mode will be able to work. Okay. Now, and one more thing that it does is before it starts setting up the environment for the protected mode, there is a bit which is called as protected enabled. Okay, this bit is there in the control register. I'll show you the control register, but there is a bit called as protected mode enabled. Okay, PE stands for protected mode enabled. So this bit is set as 1. Whenever this bit is set as 1, it means that your processor is going to go into protected mode. Okay, it's now going to switch to protected mode. So what are the 3 modes? Initially you are in real mode. 80386 is in real mode, where it will work as a fast 8086. The moment you set PE equal to 1, what happens? It implies that now you're going to go into your processor is going to work in the protected mode. Okay. So PE equal to 1 implies that your processor is going to go into the protected mode. So in protected mode, everything, all the features that your 80386 has. We discussed the features, right? Protection mechanism, translation, virtual memory, segmentation, paging, everything happens in the protected mode only. All those things, all your fabulous features of your 80386, they work in the protected mode, not in the real mode. Okay. So you can go into the protected mode, but once you are in the protected mode, you cannot go back to the real mode. Okay, you cannot switch back to the real mode once you are in protected mode by setting P equal to 0. That you cannot do. Okay. Now so this is your 386 mode. Here you are actually working as 386. Now from here, if you want to execute some 8086 programs, that you can do by switching to what is called as the virtual mode. So in virtual mode, you will be able you can again work as an 8086 processor. Your 386 can again work as a 86 processor by making the VM bit 1. So you saw the VM bit in the flag register, right? By making that 1, you can go to the virtual mode, and you can also return back to the protected mode by making VM is equal to 0. Okay, this is what is meant by the operating modes of 80386. Is that clear? Did you get some idea? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's discuss some points which differentiate your real mode and protected mode, because that is normally used for asked during examination. Okay, you people tell me. Okay, I'll just write it down. You people tell me what would be the points that No, that you can write when a question like differentiate real mode and protected mode is asked. Come on, start. Tell me the points. Sochu, what all you'll write? With whatever I told you, na, you can write. Tell me what all you can write. Real mode mein how many bit operations can be performed in real mode?
16-bit.
16-bit operations. Why? Because it's 8086. So 16-bit operations. So that means here how many bit? 32-bit operations. Right? Now, which general purpose registers you will make use of? You will make use of our 16-bit general purpose registers. That means POOT, AX, BX, CX and DX and all will be used. So here we will make use of our 32-bit extended GPRs, not the normal ones. We want 32-bit registers. So here you will have the 32-bit extended GPRs. Same thing applies for your segment and offset registers also. Now here only 8086 flags can be made use of. That means again your 16-bit flag register. Here you can use the new flags. That means we have 4 new flags also, right? So you have the 32-bit extended flag register here. Now when it comes to address translation, okay, you know the formula for address translation, right? How do you normally calculate the physical address? Physical address is equal to segment address into 10 plus offset. This is how you normally calculate physical address when you are in 8086. But when you are in protected mode, you cannot apply this formula, okay? This is not how you calculate the physical address or you translate address. Here you have complex segmentation and paging mechanism for that, okay? So that is where you have the segmentation, where you require the segmentation and paging mechanism. So for address translation, you have segmentation and paging mechanism in protected mode. Now, here your offset register is 16-bit offset register, right? SI, DI, all those are your offset registers. They are the index registers. SP, BP and all are your offset registers. Together they are generally called as offset registers. So here you have 16-bit offset registers, which means that what is the maximum size that your segment can have? How much is the memory that is available in 8086? How much is the memory? Addressable memory in 1 megabyte. That means it will go from 00000 to FFFFF. Remember? And I told you we have segments. What is the maximum size a segment can have in 8086?
4 KB.
4 KB. Here, what would be the maximum size? 4 KB. Maximum size I asked.
64 KB.
64 KB. Here, what would be the maximum size a segment can have? Here, your offset registers are 32-bit offset registers. That means what would be the maximum size a segment can have? How did you get to 64? If it is 32-bit offset, what would be the maximum size of your segment? Come on. Somebody. How did you get the 64 KB?
4 gigabytes.
4 gigabytes. Excellent. Very good. What is the maximum size a segment can have? The maximum size a segment can have is 4 gigabyte in protected mode, whereas in real mode it is 64 KB. Okay. Another point. Your addressable memory is this much here. Right? What is the addressable memory? Again, it is this much. Now, here you don't have any control registers. We'll slowly come to control registers. Okay. Here you have control registers. So here you can mention about your general purpose registers, your offset registers and your everything, index register, general purpose, offset, flag, everything is of 16-bit. Here everything is of 32-bit. So these are some points using which you can differentiate real mode and protected mode in case it is asked as a 5-mark question. Okay, it will normally be asked as a 5-mark question only. Differentiate real mode and protected mode. In that case, you can say that in real mode, our processor is acting as a fast 8086, so we can do only 16-bit operations. So all our registers are also of 16-bit capacity, including general purpose offset flag register. Whereas in protected mode, we have extended GPRs, extended offset registers, extended flag registers. Segment address, physical address calculation is easy in the case of real mode, whereas for protected mode, we have a complex segmentation and paging mechanism. We'll be learning segmentation and paging. The addressable memory is 1 MB in real mode, whereas in protected mode, you have 32-bit address bus, so you have 4 GB addressable memory. There are no control registers in real mode. There are control registers. We learn control registers also, okay, in protected mode. These are some points which you can use to differentiate real mode and protected mode. Okay, now let me just show you the software model of real mode and protected mode. Now the diagram which you see in front of you is the register model, or you can say the software model or register model of real mode. Okay, this is of real mode. So you can see here, IP is not whatever is there in this dark color. Okay, that is what is available, or that is what is made use of in real mode. So you know that EIP is 32-bit. But in real mode, we'll be making use of only IP. Only IP is available because our processor is 8086, right? 386 is emulating the behavior of 8086. So we'll be making use of only IP. Same way, apart from CS, SS, DS, and ES, you have FS and GS. Okay, which will also be which will also work as your data segments. Now, AX, BX, CX, and DX, again, they'll be used as 16-bit. They'll be having the capacity of 16-bit only in real mode. SP, BP, SI, and DI, again, they are also 16-bit only, okay, in real mode. But in protected mode, what will happen? This IP will not be used. You will be using EIP. That means whole 32-bit. AX, BX, CX, DX will not be used. You will be using EAX, EBX, ECX, EDX. That means again 32-bit. SP, BP, SI, DI will not be used in protected mode. You will be using ESP, EBP, ESI, and EDI. Again, this is 16-bit flag register, which will be used if you are in 8086. But if you are in 386 mode or protected mode, you will be using extended flag register. Now, I told you there are 3 other registers apart from these registers, which are called as control registers. CR0, CR1, control register 0, control register 1, control register 2, control register 3. Okay, 4 control registers. Then you have debug register. DR means debug register. Okay, so there are 7 debug registers. TR is task state segment register. There are 2 task state segment registers, TR6 and TR7. Okay, we'll come to this later on, but just understand that in real mode, this is what we actually make use of, even though this much is available. That means even though 32-bit registers are available, we'll be making use of only 16-bit registers. Okay, whatever is shown in white color, okay, whatever is shown in white color is the portion which is not made use of in real mode. That means, see, whatever is shown in white color is not made use of in real mode, even though it is a part of your 80386 software model. All these registers are part of your 80386 register model, but whatever is highlighted in dark brown color or gray color, that is what is used in real mode. Okay, so whatever is in white color is not used. So you can see here, the only control register that is available in real mode is the LSB of CR0. The LSB of control register 0 is the only control register that is available during real mode. Okay, this is the software model in real mode. Now, if I show you the software model in protected mode, you can see everything is in white color. That means everything is basically available or made use in protected mode. See, 32-bit IP, that is EIP, 32-bit AX, BX, CX, DX. That means EAX, EBX, ECX, EDX. All your offset registers are also 32-bit. Flag register 32-bit. Control register 32-bit. Debug register 32-bit. Your task state segment register 32-bit. Everything is 32 is of 32-bit capacity. Okay. Then apart from these registers, there are certain registers which are used for paging and segmentation mechanism, which is called as, there are four tables in 80386 which are used during paging and segmentation. Okay, we'll be learning paging and segmentation. At that time, I'll discuss in detail what are these tables. But just understand or just remember that there are four registers which are meant for these four tables. So there are four tables. Global table is there. Okay, global descriptor table, local descriptor table, okay, local descriptor table, interrupt descriptor table, and task segment descriptor table. Okay. There are four tables which are used when we do page, when 80386 does paging and segmentation. For all these tables, you have registers. Okay. So GDTR, global descriptor table register, is for GDT table. Okay, it's a register for GDT table. GDT is the name of the table. GDTR is the name of the register. IDTR is the name of the register for interrupt descriptor table. Okay. LDTR is the name of the register for local descriptor table. And TR is the name of the register for task segment descriptor table. So there are four tables which are used in 80386 when it is paging and segmentation. And for all these four tables, you have dedicated registers which will basically store the base address. We'll discuss all those details later on. But just understand what is available when you are in real mode and what is available when you are in protected mode. Suppose this question is asked for 10 marks. Okay, 10 marks or 12 marks. In that case, apart from enlisting these points, you can also draw this software model to support your answer. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
It's easy. It's the same diagram. Just the only extra components are your descriptor table registers when you are in protected mode. Okay. Otherwise, you have to just draw this. In the same diagram, if you want, you can annotate and show that this is what is available in real mode. This is what is available in protected. Okay. Now, I'll shed some more light about protected mode. Okay. There are a few more things which you need to understand about protected mode. Now, in protected mode, there are 4 levels of privileges. You know what is protected mode, right? In protected mode, you, the programmer, cannot access any portion of your memory by just specifying the address. You can do that in 8086, 8085 and all. You cannot do that from 80386. From there, you cannot do that. You cannot access. If you go and try to do that in your i7 processor or in your current system, you'll not be able to access memory by specifying address because it's protected. Okay, so from 80386, your processor has a feature which is called as protection mechanism. So where there are privileges assigned. Okay, basically there are 4 privileges, 4 privilege levels. So you can see here in this diagram, PL equal to 0 is privilege level 0, PL equal to 1 is privilege level 1, PL equal to 2 is privilege level 2, and PL equal to 3 is privilege level 3. Okay, don't confuse it with what IOPL. IOPL is the privilege level for accessing IO devices. Okay, Here it's not about IO devices. It's a privilege level of your files, of all the files or programs in your protected mode in your system. Okay. IOPL is just about the privilege level for IO devices. Here it's not restricted to IO devices. Okay. So there are 4 privilege levels which are available in protected mode: PL0, PL1, PL2 and PL3. Okay. Now, what is PL0 or what is level 0? See, in level 0 is assigned to, as you can see in the diagram, level 0 is assigned to your OS kernel. You can see here kernel. That means only the, what is the time? Not that, right? Okay. Only the kernel, your core files or operating system files have the privilege. Okay. Privilege for what? Privilege for accessing memory. Okay. Now, anybody who is at this privilege level, they can access every file which is at privilege level 1, privilege level 2 and privilege level 3. That means whoever are at lower levels, all those files and all those data can be accessed by anybody who is having privilege level 0. The same thing happens. See, you can relate it to your principal sir. Our principal sir has the right to come in, to just come in and inspect any classroom or any department at any time. Why? Because he is at privilege level 0. So any program at PL0 can access all the data, okay, at any privilege level. It can access all the data and programs at any privilege level. Now, if you are in level 1 is for system services. What do you mean by system services? System services means your device drivers, all the files, all the programs or data related to file handling, all those things come under the second privilege level, PL equal to 1. So it's the second most privilege level. Okay. So at this privilege level, whoever is at privilege level 1, they can access all data which is at privilege level 2 and privilege level 3. Suppose it is HOD sir. So HOD sir can come and inspect all the classrooms, all the staff rooms of our department, right? Anything which is under him, which is below him. So it's just like that. See, privilege level 2 is OS extension. So consider it as your faculty. So your faculty has the right to come and inspect every classroom, but he or she may not be able to go and does not have the right to go and inspect HOD cabin or principal's room. So it's the opposite way, it's not allowed. Okay. So any file or any program at a privilege level, at a higher privilege level, can inspect all the data, can access all the data at lower privilege levels. Did you understand this point?
Yes.
Vice versa, it is not possible. Okay. PL3 is for applications. That means for user applications. You cannot go and access whatever is there in your OS kernel or your system files. You cannot manipulate your device driver files. You don't have that privilege. Okay. As an application, you can access only data which is available at this level, to which you have privilege. This is what is called as protection mechanism. So in 80386, there are 4 levels of privileges, and only the file at the highest level of privilege, that is highest level of privilege is PL equal to 0, can access OS kernel files. Okay. It can also access all the files or all the data which is there at lower privilege levels. So PL0 can basically access everything that is there in PL1, PL0, PL1, PL2 and PL3. PL1 can access PL2 and 3. PL1 can access PL1, PL2, PL3, all 3 levels. PL2 can access PL2 and PL3. PL3 can access only the data which is there in PL3. Okay, this is called as a protection mechanism in 80386. So all this is possible. All this will work only if your 80386 is in protected mode. So how does it come to the protected mode? From real mode, you have to make the PE, protected enable bit, equal to 1. Then your system will gradually shift to your protected mode. You cannot go back from protected mode to real mode. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, so in protected mode, you have that whole memory available. Okay. In real mode, you have only 1 MB memory which you can access. But if you are in protected mode, you can access that whole 4 GB memory and all your 32-bit GPRs and registers also you can access. Now, coming to the last point, which is control registers. Okay. Now, why I didn't discuss control registers before before discussing protected mode, virtual mode, and real mode is because there are certain concepts which are related to protected mode and real mode and all. So it was logical to explain modes before we discuss control registers. But in exam, if you get a question, explain the register model of 80386. In that case, you have to explain GPRs. You have to explain the flag registers. Okay, and you have to explain the control registers in a little detail. Okay, you can also support your diagram with this, support your answer with this diagram, but focus on just explaining what is GPRs, what is flag register, and what is control register of 80386. Okay, now coming to control register, as I told, there are 4 control registers in 80386: CR0, CR1, CR2, and CR3. Okay, control register 0, control register 1, control register 2, and control register 3. Now, I told you all these 4 registers are not available in real mode. In real mode, see, look at this diagram. In real mode, you have only this much portion of your CR0 available. That means the LSB of CR0 is available in real mode. The only thing that is available in real mode is LSB of CR0. But in protected mode, you have all these available: CR0, CR1, CR2, and CR3 available in protected mode. Now, what is LSB of CR0? Look here. This is CR0. What is LSB of CR0? LSB of CR0 is PE. What is PE? What is PE? PE is protected mode enabled. Do you need that when you are in real mode? Do you need that when you are in real mode? Yes or no?
No,
Obviously, you need that, right? Why do you
but
need
0
that?
na.
If you want to go into protected mode, you have to make PE1. Then only you can go into protected mode. So that is the only data that is required when you that you actually use when you are in real mode. That is why I told that only LSB of CR0 is available in real mode. Why only LSB of CR0 is available? Because LSB of CR0 is nothing but PE. And PE is required for shifting from real mode to protected mode. Okay. So what is PE? PE is protected mode enabled. So if PE equal to 1, it means you are going to protected mode from real mode. Okay. Now, next bit is MP. What is MP? MP means math coprocessor. Okay. Math coprocessor. I told you 8086 cannot do floating point operations. If 8086 wants to do floating point operations, it requires a math coprocessor. Okay. Now, so if MP equal to 1, it means there is a math coprocessor. And if MP is equal to 0, it means there is no coprocessor. No coprocessor means it cannot do floating point operations. If there is a coprocessor, it can do floating point operations. Okay. So both MP and EM, the next 2 bits are related to math coprocessor. EM means emulate coprocessor. Emulate coprocessor. That is what EM is. So what is the meaning here? See, if MP is 1, it means there is a math coprocessor. Okay. That means if 386 sees a floating point operation, what it will do? It will go and check the status of MP. If MP equal to 1, that means coprocessor will do the operation. Okay. If MP equal to 0, what does it understand? It understands that it has to check the EM bit. Now it will go and check the EM bit. when it goes and check the EM bit, if EM is equal to 1, what it means? It means that 80386 will do the floating point operation. That means 80386 is going to emulate the behavior of a coprocessor. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
MP equal to 1 means there is somebody who will do that job. What is the job? To do floating point operations. Okay. Suppose you are in real mode. Okay. Real mode means you are 8086. 8086 means it cannot do floating point operations unless there is a coprocessor. Okay. Now, so if MP equal to 1, it means there is a math coprocessor. If MP is equal to 0, it means no coprocessor. Okay. So whenever you want to do, whenever 8036 wants to do floating point operation, it will check whether MP equal to 1 or not. MP equal to 1 means there is a person who will do that job. I need not worry about that. In case MP equal to 0, it will immediately go and check EM. If EM equal to 0, it means floating point operation cannot be done. Neither there is a coprocessor nor is 80386 imitating the behavior of a coprocessor. So floating point operation cannot be done in case both are 0. But in case EM equal to 1, it means that 80386 is going to emulate the behavior of a coprocessor. That means floating point operation is going to be done by 386 itself. That is the significance of these two bits, MP and EM. Okay. Now, coming to the next bit, which is TS. Okay. TS means task switching. I told you that 80386 can perform multitasking, right? Did I tell you? Yes, I told you that 80386 can perform multitasking. So TS means task switching. Obvious. So task switching equal to 1 means what? TS equal to 1 means it allows task switching. That means you can execute multiple programs simultaneously. If TS equal to 0, it means no task switching. That means multiple programs cannot be performed simultaneously. So TS will tell you whether multitasking can be performed or not. Okay. So what is P? P will tell you whether protected mode is enabled or not. MP and EM will tell you the status of your floating point operations, whether it can be done or not. TS will tell you whether multitasking can be done or not. And ET. ET stands for extension type. Okay. ET means extension type. Extension type. This is also related to math coprocessor. Okay. And this will be checked only if MP equal to 1. This ET will be checked. Remember, ET will be checked only if MP equal to 1. That means it is telling some extra details about the math coprocessor. If you are checking ET only when MP equal to 1, it means there is a math coprocessor and this bit is going to give me some extra information about who the math coprocessor is. Understood? Are you getting it, guys? 2 more minutes, huh? That's it, we are done. So what does ET bit tell you? ET bit tells you who is the math coprocessor. Okay. So if ET is equal to 1, it means 80287 is the math coprocessor. If ET is equal to 0, it means 80387 is the math coprocessor. If ET is equal to 0, 80386 is the math coprocessor. Okay. Okay. So ET equal to 1 means 80387 is the math coprocessor. ET equal to 0 means 80386 itself is the math coprocessor. That means it's just giving you some extra information about the math who is the math coprocessor. Okay. And PG, the last bit which you can see, the bits which are there here are reserved. Then you have this last bit which is called as PG. PG stands for paging. Okay, it just tells you whether paging is enabled or not. So if paging is equal to 1, that means paging is happening. If PG is equal to 0, it means paging is not happening. The paging means it's a step which is involved in the virtual memory, that is your address translation. Okay, so the PG bit is made 1 means you are going into the paging mode. This is what is control register 0. So what are all there in control register 0? EE, which tells you whether protection is enabled or not. That is whether you are in real mode or protected mode. Then you have MP, which tells you whether are you using a math coprocessor or not. Okay. And EM tells you whether 80386 itself is doing the job or not. TS is task switching, which tells you whether multitasking can be done or not. ET is the extension type, which will tell you who is the math coprocessor. Okay, if ET is equal to 1, 80387 is a math coprocessor. And if ET equal to 0, it's not 80386, okay, it's 80287. If ET equal to 0, it is 80287. Okay, let me clarify this. 80386 can work with two coprocessors, okay? It can work with 80387 and 80287. So if ET equal to 1, it means 80387 is a math coprocessor. If ET equal to 0, it means 80287 is the math coprocessor. Clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next is control register 1. Control register 1 is reserved. Okay. It's reserved for future use. Control register 2. Control register 2 and control register 3 are used. So in actual, control register 0, control register 2 and 3 are used. Control register 1 is actually reserved. Okay. CR1 is reserved for future use by Intel. It might have been used by now, but it was reserved for future use. Okay. Now coming to control register 2, which is page fault linear address. Okay. Does anybody know what is meant by page fault? Have you, I think OS में पढ़ा है what is meant by page fault? Page fault, memory paging सब हो गया OS में? हुआ कि नहीं? Why is nobody responding? Hungry? Okay, let's do one thing. We'll resume in the next lecture. Okay, let me wind up.